time to catch up with our friends from Beyond Goals. Oh, I love the artwork behind you, Greg.
Thank
Nicely.
you. I appreciate it. My mom helped me out on that one.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not the so artistic or artsy type of person. Just I got a lot of art on my body, but other than that, how are you? I was you're right. Last time we spoke, I was in Toronto,
Uh-huh.
and I just got back a few days ago, right before the Atlanta United Academy dinner. I was in San Diego for a week. Had to take care of some stuff there as well. So
Well, I mean, so let's start there. How was the Academy dinner? What was it like to see some familiar faces and see some faces that are a part of the Atlanta United fold? What was that like?
oh, for sure. We got to speak to so many different people. We got to meet a lot of different people, people who have kind of made this possible for us. And just I look at those kids and I say, man, what a privilege to have things like that. Right? I hope each and every one of those kids leaves that dinner and says, and doesn't become complacent with where they are, and says to themselves, "Holy, this is something that every kid would ever ever dream of." So I have to hold myself to a very high standard and use it to something to continue to follow their dreams. Right there, they are an initial investment to an organization that wants them to succeed in becoming pro, but ultimately it's up to them to take it as far as they want.
I mean, what are those interactions like? Because I know that we are all in a situation like that. We are, we love the fact that we're there. I mean, and this is something that is at Mercedes Benz. This is on the turf at Mercedes Benz Stadium. And I mean, if you are a young student, you student athlete, young man, young woman, what have you, and you come walking out and all of these tables and all this presentation is there and you're on the field at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I mean, that is, it should be, I think, one, awe-inspiring to begin with, but two, it shows you the level of investment that Atlanta United has in anyone who's attached to the organization.
Most definitely. Yeah, no telling how much that dinner cost for all those kids. But yeah, I think one of the main things for me was just to see how much support each and every one of those kids have. Whether it's from the coaching staff, the front office staff, the so many people that even Garth being there, right? There's so many people that were there in support of what their future is, and it's a huge commitment on their part, but it's also within that commitment comes a major responsibility. And I think over the years, that's what I kept telling kids that kept coming up and asking or anything, or I just kept telling them, like, look at what you have in front of you, right? Don't sometimes think too much about what you truly want in life and what your true dream is, but just live this moment right now. Live this moment right now and understand how important it is for you to be here, but how proud of yourself that you can be of being here. But with that pride and with that confidence that I'm sure this will give comes a lot of responsibility. And I think I got a question from one of their kids yesterday, actually, in a mentoring session, and it was, the first question he asked, because he just got called into the youth national team, and it's going to be his very first camp, and that was his question: is what did I feel going through that whole entire process? And I just told him, look, you already have a responsibility with wearing the Atlanta United crest on your close to your heart, right? And that's already a huge responsibility. But the U.S. national team one is just there's no comparison. There's no comparison of the type of role model. There's no comparison of the type of person that you have to be, the type of leader you have to be, and it's a lot different than every other kid that is at Atlanta United, because you now have to hold yourself when you go back to that same standard of what it means to represent your country. And that's I think that's the main message for me and those kids that are there, even at Atlanta United, is to understand the responsibility that comes behind it, the role models that they have to be. I always tell kids in our first session, I always tell kids that my kids look up more to them than they do to me. And it's true. Even my own kids, Dad, we don't care that you won MLS. We don't care that you won Liga MX. We don't care that you got to play against Ronaldinho 5 times. I want to be these kids, And so that's something that's very, very special for each and every one of those kids to understand and realize.
I mean, because you never know who you're going to rub off on, and every interaction is important in its own way in the one-on-one interactions, but you never know how wide that circle is going to get, and you never know what those responses and that rubbing off is going to look like. I mean, it's like the old shampoo commercial, and I told 2 friends and they told 2 friends and so on and so on and so on. You don't know the value of that first person you touch and how exponentially it will grow and how you get to rub off on others you may not even see.
For sure. Most definitely. No, you are absolutely right. One crazy comment, though, that has nothing to do with this, but it has to do with the stadium, is that we were inside that stadium when the storm hit a few days ago. And that is the first time I've ever, you could not hear the person in front of you speak. That's how loud that stadium is when rain hits. We've never experienced it before because we always have thousands of people in there and you hear the people rather than the rain. Sometimes you can tell with the far glass or whatever that they have that it is raining. But that is the first time I've been in that stadium to when no one is in it and you cannot, it's so loud with the rain hitting on that stadium that you cannot hear the person in front of you speaking. And that Parky and I we were amazed by it. It was like, oh, this is quite an eerie feeling. If you're here by yourself and you hear the rain so loud with no one in that stadium.
That's crazy to think about that. There's a couple hundred folks on the field having their incredible moment there in the building, but then Mother Nature just kind of sits there and she's knocking on the door and it's just like, okay, step back for a sec. I got some work to do.
Yeah, I think they raised up the volume of the music whenever that started to happen. Yeah,
it's just when you have moments like what you guys got to experience, what you and Parky got to experience with the Academy kickoff dinner and all those kinds of things. I mean, how much reminiscing do you do yourself about, man? And it's great that they've got this. I wish I had something like this, or my experiences that I had in these environments, they compare, but they don't compare. We had our moments. They were different. They weren't as large as it was in Mercedes-Benz. When you think back to your initial interactions with the older members and the first team and organizations like that, how does it compare?
I think there is no comparison. Even I always look back to like being a youth player, and going through very prestigious academies throughout my youth career. I'm some of the best in the world. But there was nothing in comparison to what those kids experienced that day. Those kids have something that is extremely special, an organization that is backing them in various different ways. Not only them, but their families. It's an interesting way to go about things, I think, because I think one of the major messages that Mike and I have for kids is that life is never going to be fair.
Right.
And sometimes, I feel I love the fact that those kids got to experience that. And I hope they, each and every one of them, right, like I said, with that pride comes that great responsibility of understanding what it means to put on that shirt and what it means to have that moment. And Parky said it so well when he spoke at the front. He said, look, just don't take this for granted, right? Don't take this for granted. Don't become complacent. That's the worst thing that you could probably ever do is just become complacent and not want more out of what you currently have. And, there were kids. There was one kid that this is the crazy stat. There was only one kid out of every single, there were 100 kids there, right? One kid that has ever done every single one of those dinners. From
Wow.
the age of 10 years old, he's done all 8 dinners, and it's cool. He's one of our mentees. So it's cool to see how far he's come. But that goes to show me that, man, the numbers are it's a tough environment to be in. And he's not becoming pro right now, right? He's going to college. He's getting a full ride. I'm assuming he's getting a full ride to wherever he's going. But you know, it's a rough road for a lot of those kids ahead. But can they understand that those moments, even right then, are like moments that they strive to be in?
What's it like for you and Parky to have these full circle moments with the organization where you come in, you're a part of the successes on the pro side, and now you get to come back in and help out the younger members of the organization? What's it like? What's it been like for the two of you to have these full circle moments now?
Yeah, I think more than anything, you always, especially Mike and I always talk about it for these kids. We just want to serve as big brothers, serve as guys that can lead them the right way. And also just using not necessarily that success that we had within a team, but even just that badge of becoming a champion and wearing it on our sleeve around those kids, just to show them what's possible, right? Show them what can be possible, but in the most righteous ways.
Right.
And I think that's what's most important to me, is because there are players out there that are damn good players. There are players out there that are amazing players, but I think it takes much more than just being a good player, and having success and in life, and not only in soccer, but also in life. That it becomes something to where being that good person and trying to serve as a role model on every platform that you're given, that's much more valuable. And I think Parky and I have done well enough in our careers to represent all of that in one. And for those kids, I think that's what sticks out the most, is that, man, these two guys are hopefully, really down to earth people, and they're also just regular people. There's nothing crazy about these guys. Don't walk in and, it's we're very, very personable and can speak to everyone. And I think that's for those kids, I think that's the most important role I think I can play, is just to show them the value of what it means to be a great person. And hopefully, I always, I'm such a religious cat on that. It's like the more generous you are, the more you shall receive. Right. And so I think, those are words from the Bible, and those are ways to live life, in my opinion. And that's kind of what I want those kids to understand. And, Parky said it perfectly also as well. He said, it's your individual success means nothing if there is no collective success, and you will have more individual success if there is an amount of collective success. And that's so true. I signed my biggest contracts in my career when I had success around the team that I was playing for, rather than doing extremely well individually. And so that goes for all those kids as well, something to understand along the way.
Yeah, I think what is, and I'm paraphrasing here, is that what you give out, you get back tenfold. I think is how it's phrased. How long did it take you? And maybe this is something that you can look at with Parky as well, from the time that you guys interact. How long did it take you to become comfortable as a role model, as a player, and as a mentor, in those two separate tracks? Or are you still trying to become comfortable as a role model, as a mentor?
I think when you are a player, I think it's a lot of BS if a player says, and you see it a lot in like other sports, whether it be the NBA or the NFL, or these guys that say, I'm not a role model. I can do what I want. It's my life. I can do whatever I want. And I think that's pure BS, because the amount of people that watch under those guys, right? Those guys are automatically looking over everybody else. But you automatically serve as a role model given the platform that you're given. And so it's up to you how you handle certain situations. It's up to you. That said, we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to make some mistake in our careers or in our lives to not necessarily question, but just be human. And I think, but I do think when you are that player and you are given that opportunity to play in front of thousands of people, or have kids come to all your appearances and take pictures with you and all those kinds of different things, you serve as a huge role model for those people. And I think one of the most gratifying things, hopefully for Parky, but for me, is now as a mentor, I'll speak to parents, and these are parents that know who I am and kind of how I served the community of Atlanta whenever I played. It's like an automatic yes, I want my kid to be mentored by you, because of, and it has nothing to do with, yes, you were hell of a good left back. That's we want, and most of the time, I'd say more than 85% of the time, it's because, man, we loved the role model that you were off the field, and I would love for my son to follow in those footsteps. And that for me is what it's all about, right? Serving these kids in a way to where, yeah, we're using soccer as as the platform, but we're really helping these kids understand life hacks and life skills, and helping them not only be successful in whatever they choose to do, but have the right way to go about it as well.
And servant leadership, I mean, is something that I've come across in all of the sports that I've covered over time. And there are those who immediately jump in and understand the idea of servant leadership, whether it's a coach or a student athlete or whatever. And to see an adult who is a coach or a mentor, and to see a student or a student athlete understand, like when the light comes on, it's like, oh, okay, this really is important, and I need to carry myself in a way, because once again, it goes back to, you never know who you're going to touch. And it could be directly in that one-on-one interaction like you and Parky have with your mentees, or it could be through word of mouth or conversation. Yeah, I was catching up with so-and-so and they were great. And, I was around so-and-so and they weren't that great. And so you never know where word of mouth is going. You never know who you're going to touch. You never know how you're going to touch them. And all of these different things are as important as they can be, whether you're an adult who's been at it a while and knows how to carry yourself, or that student or a student athlete, that young man or woman who's learning how to do it for the first time and getting that first round of pleasure and enjoyment of spreading all of that good stuff that can come from inside.
Most definitely. Right. There's I think within my whole entire career, I've understood that, it's all about the relationships that you make. Right. Yeah. It's all about the relationships that you make, but how you carry those relationships is everything epitomized in everything that you just mentioned.
Michael Valverde's in, he says, at the very least, a pro athlete should display an attitude of gratitude. And it's something that I don't think we see a lot or enough of these days, sadly.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, that spot, I think it never comes to mind for pro athletes until something not terrible happens, but something
setbacks.
Yeah, setbacks and a moment of adversity. But I think it's not given; it can be taken away from you the next day. I mean, if you look at the NFL, their average contract is 2.5 years, right? Their average lifespan within their career is 2.5 years. So it's like how you make the most of those 2.5 years and create those unforgettable moments is extremely important.
Yeah, Greg Garza here hanging out with us. Is he and Michael Parkhurst do Fridays when they're not traveling the planet at 9:30 Eastern time for the Friday Free Kick, and our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring at BG Mentoring on the 280 character app, whatever they call it these days. And it's always great to catch up with Greg and Parky and find out what's going on as they continue to grow as mentors and impact mentees virtually, in person lessons? I mean, what's it like for you to juggle geography in this day and age of mentees and how you can reach out to them and touch them? And it's like, could be like what we're doing here now, could be in person. What's it like to be able to reach mentees in all these different ways?
I mean, for me, it's just passing down the wisdom and knowledge and everything, all the experiences that I've learned within my career. And I always had coaches tell me back in the day, some really good coaches say, when you play, they're very small. There's going to be a smaller amount of amazing moments than there are challenges that you face within your career. And that is so true. I think I faced so many more challenges within my career rather than celebrating amazing moments. And that's like my biggest piece of advice for kids is to understand that the struggle will be real, right? There will be challenges that they have to overcome. There will be challenges that they have to face, but ultimately it's up to them how they want to face those challenges. So that's my biggest one for sure. Yeah, most definitely that one.
Do they get that initially? Do they understand that bless you. Do they understand that the struggle is going to be real and that you will have everything is not just going to be the upward climb? I mean, it's going to be cliffhanger at points. It's going to be the labor of Sisyphus where you've got the big boulder and you're in the valley and you push the boulder all the way up to the crest of the hill, and then you get gassed, and then the boulder goes all the way back down and you've got to start the process over again. Do they understand that you're going to have these labors, or are their heads level going into this, or do you have to have some serious talks at times?
I think there are moments that you have to have serious talks. I think, and we've talked about that before, John, right? It's like most parents reach out to us, or most kids reach out to us when there's already a fire.
Yeah.
Right. To try and put it out. And most of the time it will work. But Parky always says it best, like, reach out to us beforehand.
Right.
So you know how to deal when that fire, happens. And that's probably a huge one that I've seen so far within what we do, is that sometimes we seek help. Sometimes, I mean, we're even guilty of it, right? I'm even guilty of it. Sometimes we seek help when the problem is already there, rather than trying to figure out, okay, what steps can I take when that problem does arise, to help myself in those moments.
And I mean, you bring that point up, and I think that maybe a lot of it just comes from focusing in a linear fashion, where we're always, head down, hands forward. Everything is about that push. And then because you have that plan in place, it's a linear plan. It's not a three-dimensional plan. It's not an if then. It's like, okay, this is it. This is what's going to happen. And then when it doesn't, that's when we reach out. I don't know how many of us these days think in that three-dimensional tone, or think of it like a flow chart instead of thinking of it as a straight line. I mean, that, like I said, that's just me thinking out loud and trying to process this as almost like we're workshopping this whole thing. But I mean, that to me just seems like that's how we're wired these days. We're wired linearly instead of as a flow chart. Does that make sense?
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And it's just, when you want to process the information, then to your point, it's like, something's wrong here. I've hit this roadblock. I've hit this pothole. And it's because I was thinking this way and not thinking about, there's other lanes of traffic that I can move the car into to work my way around. I don't know if that's a generational thing or not. Do you with your mentees sense that they are looking at things in three dimensions, the mentees themselves, maybe not necessarily the parents, because those of us of a certain age may just be thinking linearly. It's like, you'll get this done, you'll do this, and you'll go in a straight line. Do the mentees think in three dimensions more than adults do these days?
I think so. I think so. I think the younger the kids are and the younger they're able to go through these types of situations, the more resilient it makes them, and the more it helps them understand what perseverance is. And yeah, there's valuable lessons to be learned in each and every, phase that these kids go through. Obviously, us as parents, we never want our kids to go through or suffer through anything, right? But I always do tell people, look, I want my kid to lose. I want my kid to suffer. I want my kid to go through certain things that'll help him and make him stronger. It's okay to be emotional after a game, right? It's okay to be, you want these kids to feel things. You want them to feel out things to build that resilience and make them tougher along the way, right? And I think that's one thing that I've learned is like when kids lose a game and the parents you tell them, no, don't cry. That shows that you're weak. And, it's okay to cry when you lose, man. It's okay to cry when you lose, but it's how what you learn from that is more valuable than anything else. You got to let it out. But once you do let it out, then, okay, what do I take from that? But yeah, I'd say last few minutes, what do we think of the 404 ATL
I like it.
jersey?
I like it, man. You don't?
Man, I was at the training facility the other day.
Yeah.
And I think I asked as many players as I could if they liked the jersey, and I won't tell you what their answer was.
Okay. Well, I can kind of guess what the answer is by you not telling me what the answer is.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into United here for the final couple of minutes. But I do want to talk. Next time you're back, since you went down the road about being emotional and being resilient, I want to bookmark that, and we'll talk about that next time. The East is chaos. It is absolute chaos, and it is a match by match pressure because basically 2 through 7 are separated by a good week in match compression right now. And any team that could be like top in the East or chasing the number 2 spot in the Eastern Conference behind Cincy would be number 2 in the West right now, and close to breathing down St. Louis's neck. What's it been like for you to sit there and see this chaos that's going on in the Eastern Conference where every match means something, and now that you've got like 8 matches to go, it means that much more?
The fact that you have 8 matches left and the points are that close together, it was funny because I did speak to Gonzalo at the dinner, and I was like, man, you know this league. It's 2 good games, 3 good games, and you're clinched, right? That's all you need. So which games are you going to pick out of those 8 games to have good games in? Because that's all you need. This league more than anybody, John, is that it takes a couple of wins in a row and you can jump up from last place and be in 3rd place.
Yeah.
And so they just have to find that consistency within doing so. The game was it against Nashville?
Yeah, the 4-0 Buttwood.
That was like one of the most electrifying games I witnessed on TV, but one of the most electrifying games that I think I've seen maybe since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that like it was just attack. Were there moments to where I was like, oh my gosh, like this could go the other way?
Yep.
Most definitely. I think we were corrected. We've only got 7 more games, not 8.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah.
But that game reminded me of back in the day. We didn't care about defending, right? We knew we were good enough to score 4 goals, and if they scored 3, we still won the game 4-3.
Hit him again, hit him again, hit him again.
Yep. And that was like Tata's philosophy is that if the game ends up 7-4, I don't care. We won 7-4. I don't care about a clean sheet. Whereas Brad's punching the locker when we get back in the locker room because he didn't keep the clean sheet, guys. But Tata didn't care. We won 7-4. Mm-hmm. So it's like that reminded me of that. Like there were moments to where I think Muamba gave the ball up in the top of the D.
Oh,
it could have changed the whole entire game. There was another chance that somebody else had. Maybe Mukhtar had another one, but it was like the game would have ended up 4-2 and we still would have won, right? But it could have changed the course of the game, maybe. But like it was exciting. That's the word. It was an exciting game to watch, and we've definitely missed that for a very, very, very long time within that stadium.
All right, the Heat, Dallas. It's going to be like 7 gazillion degrees, and they're going to be playing on the surface of the sun. What's the biggest thing in dealing with matches with heat that you have to face and control?
Just thinking into your mind that we're both going through the same thing. we both have to deal with this. I don't care. I'm from Dallas. My parents live there, and it's been over 45 days, like over 100 degrees. It doesn't matter if you've lived there your whole entire life. My mom calls me every day and she says, "It is freaking hot." Like every single day is a complaint. So it's they're dealing with the same. Those guys have no advantage whatsoever. So it's kind of how can you manage the mental side of it.
All right, what's going on with Beyond Goals?
Same as always, man. Continue to grow, continue to do great things out there in the community, and obviously having this new opportunity to be involved with Atlanta United is something that we strive for and we really worked hard for, and hopefully we can continue not only with Atlanta United but also move into other academies as well.
I like that. Greg Garza and our friends at Beyond Goals at BG Mentoring on the Twitters with the Twitterless, 280 character list, X list. Greg Garza. Greg, my friend, it's always great to catch up with you at 9:30 on Friday mornings. Be safe.
John. I appreciate it. Have a good day, man. Have a good weekend.
All right. Thank you very much. That's Greg. Greg is going to enjoy his coffee and his breakfast and do other things.